I know a lot of people are asking, what did we gain from the Republicans getting the slim majority in Congress if they're not doing anything? Okay, well, look, we can certainly ask they do more. That's fair. But we're getting a lot, to be completely honest. Maybe a lot isn't enough. Maybe we need a massive tidal wave of, subpoenas, criminal referrals, etc. But we got some big breaking news this morning. White House worked with YouTube to censor COVID-19 and vaccine misinformation. House Judiciary Committee. And as of today, for the past few hours, I have been watching a hearing in Congress with Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger. And it is interesting to see the conversations being had. Of course, the Democrats are losing it, claiming none of this matters and it's irrelevant. But this is a serious deal. This is the government colluding with big tech private organizations to interfere in U.S. elections and seriously put people at risk. This story is about how on YouTube you could be banned for wrongthink pertaining to medical practices. Now, let me just say, my friends, my position has been the same. I ain't here to give you medical advice. I don't think I should give you medical advice, nor should I give you financial advice. I don't want the legal responsibility. That ain't on me. I'm just some dude complaining on the internet. That being said, YouTube should be in the exact same position. YouTube should have no policy whatsoever pertaining to advice on medical issues. That is to say, I believe YouTube, I hope you're listening, you as a corporation and the people involved in your company are personally responsible for anyone who receives any kind of adverse effect when you set guidelines on what medical practices are allowed to be discussed on this platform. Now, look, if a news organization came out with a story and they said, this is what the White House said, I'd say, okay, well, whatever. You should go to a doctor and find one that you actually trust. When YouTube says, no, we will ban doctors who don't go along with what we think is the correct approach. Now, you, YouTube, are involved in giving people medical advice. And if someone is given medical advice by YouTube, then I think they should they experience any kind of negative impact, they should sue. And I believe YouTube should be held responsible. I believe this is a precedent that needs to be set. If a social media platform sets a guideline dictating the acceptable views in medical and finance and even legal advice, let's say I don't give legal advice either, they should be responsible for anything that comes afterwards. But let's take a look at this. If someone makes a YouTube video where they actually give legal advice, the only responsibility is on the individual. YouTube doesn't care. They won't ban you either if you say, I think you should do this if this happens. When it comes to medical advice, YouTube says you're only allowed our opinion. Okay. Let me just put it this way. Not everybody is a candidate for any kind of vaccination or medication. That's why you need to talk to your doctor. I don't know you, and you might have certain issues. I know there are many older folks, and many conservatives have pointed out, if you're older, you should get the vaccine. That's what they say. I'm not advising it, but that's a mainstream argument. And there are other people who say you should not if you're young. Joe Rogan got in trouble for saying it. YouTube has decided you're not allowed to say these things. Okay. So if someone gets bad advice because YouTube directed that information to them, and then they go to the hospital, it turns out they were allergic to eggs. And thus the medical treatment they were given, whichever egg-based treatment that is, I know it's like apparently allergic to eggs is like a thing. They should sue YouTube. I believe YouTube should be held civilly liable because if the argument from YouTube is we do not have an editorial stance on the opinions of medical information and we let people say their thing. Well, then it's like, but I watched a video. Well, you got to take it up with the guy who made the video. Well, hold on. YouTube says we suppress any medical advice outside of our opinion. Now they are outright saying they are the ones directing the information to you. Here's the story from Fox News, Fox Business. The Biden administration worked together with employees of Google-owned YouTube in 2021 to target alleged misinformation relating to the COVID-19 virus and its vaccinations, according to documents obtained by Fox Business. The documents acquired through a source close to the House Judiciary Committee reveal a level of correspondence previously unknown to the American public as President Biden and his aides sought to promote coronavirus vaccinations in efforts to quell the raging pandemic. The campaign was led by former White House Director of Digital Strategy, Rob Flaherty, who has since left the administration to help run Biden's 2024 re-election campaign as a deputy campaign manager. Flaherty emailed Google team members in April 2021 to connect about the work you're doing to combat vaccine hesitancy, but also crack down on vaccine misinformation, according to the documents. Flaherty continued asking for trends surrounding vaccine misinformation on the website, while offering government assistance in the form of COVID experts at the White House to partner in product work with YouTube. Google, in an internal email, noted that after a subsequent meeting with Flaherty, the White House staffer particularly dug in on our decision-making for borderline content, which is content that doesn't cross community guidelines, but rather brushes up against it, according to YouTube. A week later, Google acknowledged that they sent the White House the total amount of videos removed for COVID vaccine misinformation while discussing the government's desire for even more data. Full stop. I don't care whose idea it was. The moment YouTube took action, the moment YouTube met with the government who had a desire, that was it. The government meets with YouTube and says, here's what we think. YouTube goes, huh? YouTube can come out and argue and say, well, we decided their advice was correct. Okay. Then the government was involved in colluding with YouTube to suppress information, and they are not doctors. The government are not doctors. YouTube are not doctors. I am not a doctor. None of these entities should be giving you medical advice. So when YouTube says, this is fascinating. YouTube says that if someone's got a medical opinion outside of what they want, they'll ban you. At the same time, YouTube allows prominent creators to advocate drug use. That pisses me off. That pissed me off the whole time. Let me tell you a story. Casey Neistat, he's a good dude. I like the guy. He posted on Twitter, go get vaccinated. I responded with, no, go talk to your doctor. And he said, I didn't have to do that. Funny. I just went into a parking lot and they gave me my vaccine. And I was like, bro, you drove into a parking lot and let a stranger inject you? Do these people ever stop and think? Listen, man, talk to a doctor. This is what pisses me off. YouTube's policy was that if you advocated for people to walk into a 7-Eleven parking lot and let a stranger inject you, that was okay. Absolutely psychotic. Here's my problem with all of it. How do you know when there is a table in front of a grocery store that's a real approved doctor? You don't know him. So stupid. And YouTube allowed this. So when there's somebody who walks into a parking lot at a 7-Eleven, because they were doing this, and a strange man says, I'd like to inject you with this, trust me, YouTube allowed people to advocate for that. I'm willing to bet it's a fair and reasonable take that there were some people who are not doctors offering up injections. How many people were selling? Hey, it's a quick way to make money. I don't know. That's not the point. The point is, you should not go up to a stranger in a parking lot and let them inject you with anything. You should talk to your doctor. Now, don't get me wrong. Let's say you pull up to a 7-Eleven parking lot and there's your doctor. You know him. And you say, Dr. Johnson, what are you doing out here in this parking lot? He says, I'm doing vaccines. I'm like, oh, okay, great. If your doctor advises it, I got no problem with that, man. You take care of your own health. But here's the point. YouTube allowed this. Twitter allowed this. Facebook allowed this. They allowed high-profile individuals to advocate people get injected with unknown substances in the street. That was okay. But medical doctors with degrees, when they go on YouTube and they say, here's my advice, they got suspended. I believe YouTube should be sued for this. YouTube should be sued for constitutional violations, for giving the medical advice. Anybody with any adverse reaction that was documented should sue YouTube and say, YouTube's the one who directed me to this. And they're responsible because they chose this. Here's more. They say, really, Flaherty's interested in what we're seeing that is not coming down. Read an internal Google email between employees, seemingly referring to videos that had not yet been removed. The next day, YouTube's government affairs team emailed YouTube's product team flagging the interactions with the White House. There's a very high degree of interest now coming from the White House now regarding vaccine misinfo, vaccine hesitancy, and our work around borderline content. Unfortunately, the role of tech in addressing vaccine hesitancy is about to come under a massive spotlight, particularly as the supply of vaccine is soon to outpace demand. Then, the government affairs team asked if the product team could brief the White House on YouTube's work to reduce borderline content. We're hoping to get something on the books in the next 2 weeks or so to prevent anything from potentially spiraling out of control, the email stated, stressing the urgency of the situation. A week later, an update was presented with YouTube's government affairs team, writing the product team to inform of the discussion between YouTube and the White House. Okay, yeah. YouTube, Google, and the White House were colluding to suppress the speech of individuals, and some of whom are doctors. This is wild, man. Over the last several weeks, the Google and YouTube GAAP team have had conversations with the White House staff on YouTube's policies and all the great work that is being done to raise authoritative information and fight harmful misinformation related to COVID-19 misinformation. Now, look, I actually think it's fine if YouTube as a private corporation is concerned about legitimate misinformation. You'd have to take a light touch as to how you would deal with something like that. And what I mean to say is when someone posts something outright insane, light touch meaning they're allowed to say it. They should not be banned or suspended. However, I don't really care when they put the thing at the bottom of the videos where it's like, learn more about COVID. I'm like, that's totally fine, right? People should seek out as many sources as possible. I got no issue with that. That's the light touch. That's probably the extent that YouTube has their right to speech on their platform, but they should not be banning and censoring people because otherwise, like I said, they are offering up medical advice. In this tweet, we have from Jim Jordan, the YouTube Files Part 1. Biden White House pressured YouTube to censor Americans. Internal documents from Google obtained by the Judiciary GOP and weaponization show the Biden White House wanted Americans censored. Almost 1 year ago today, Matt Taibbi published the first edition of the Twitter Files. After issuing subpoenas to big tech, Judiciary GOP released the Facebook files this summer, revealing the Biden White House wanted true information censored. That's right. The Biden White House was trying to shut down legitimate, factual information, and big tech complied. Facebook changed its policies because of pressure from the Biden administration. Facebook removed content related to COVID-19 in response to pressure from the Biden administration, including posts claiming the virus was man-made, according to internal company communications viewed by the Wall Street Journal. The fascinating thing now is the lab leak theory is the dominant theory as to the emergence of COVID. It's wild, isn't it? To think about the amount of censorship we were under and the amount of change we are seeing now. So let me just stress, when Elon Musk tells the advertisers to go F themselves, I ask you, you should sign up for X Premium. Pay that $8 a month or $16 if you can, because if everyone did who supported the platform, the advertisers would be irrelevant. And imagine that. A platform for communications that is not beholden to massive multinational corporations that conspire with political activists to suppress your rights and your speech. He says, now here's the first edition of the YouTube Files. He mentions the email from Flaherty. Well, we have the image right here. It says, I love it, not for public release is presumed. You can't really tell for sure. Hey, yeah. A while ago, I met with folks from Google about misinformation and COVID-19. Was hoping to connect again with folks from your side about the work you're doing to combat vaccine hesitancy, but also crack down on vaccine misinformation. Interesting. It shouldn't be allowed. I believe that, I don't know to what degree Google gets tax breaks or government grants. I believe that all tax breaks for the Google Corporation, for Alphabet, should be stripped because of this collusion. I believe that they should not be allowed to further communicate. And there's probably some criminal elements here, or at least some people should resign. Privately, Google understood what this request meant, as internal documents obtained by Judiciary GOP reveal. Quote, Rob's questions were very YouTube focused. He dug in our decision to making for borderline content, which YouTube says is content that doesn't violate our community guidelines. Well, the latest news is that this guy Flaherty is being subpoenaed. Good. Good. Right now, there's a hearing. Man, I've been spending the morning watching this hearing on censorship, and the Democrats are evil. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is evil. It's remarkable. Lynch. Evil. It's crazy how evil these people are. I don't know, man. It's infuriating. It's infuriating watching the Democrats insult these journalists who have presented information. Why? Because Debbie Wasserman Schultz would rip your heart out of your chest if it made her a single dollar. She is abject evil. These people, you know what we need? Let me tell you. There are a lot of people who advocate for really stupid things. Let me tell you the way we win this one. We go vote. We are winning the hearts and minds. We are proving it every single day. And the evil is recoiling in fear, in desperation, in panic desperation. Donald Trump gets back in office. We get the proof. The system begins to shatter beneath their very feet. Do you know what they want? Do you know what the demons desperately need? They need violence. They want violence. And that is the path to defeat. That's what they hope for. Something to legitimize their threats and attacks on you. So, you know, we need nonviolence. We need 10,000 Scott Presslers. We need a smile and a handshake. And there are people that I fear are, you know, I feel like most of you get it. When you get these acts of violence, they weaponize that and send in the troops. When they get legitimate speech, they panic. They panic. Look at what they're doing to X. You can see what it means to be over target. So, what do we need right now? We're a year out from an election where Donald Trump is in the lead. And these people, these desperate, evil, pathetic slime bags, are terrified of what's to come. They use censorship to manipulate the elections, but it's not going to work this time around because the people are sick of it. Independents, 2-1, lean towards Trump. Trump ain't perfect. But what we need is something to remove the bureaucracy. We need something to rip out the corruption. And it's got to be done through a legitimate process. Because there's two things they want. I'll tell you why. It's not just that violence would legitimize their position and allow them to use force. That's why they like January 6th and lie about it all day, exaggerating how bad it really was. But also, violence runs the risk of breaking down this system. And do you know why a civil war would be beneficial to the deep state? It would allow them to get rid of the Constitution. An overhaul of this government would mean they could trash the Constitution and then take a dump on your floor. That's why the far left likes it. That's why they want the violence. That's why they engage in it. That's why they advocate for it. And that's why we cannot. It's why we must outsmart them. You know, let me tell you. In chess, you never really take the king. You put the king in checkmate, meaning the king has no moves to be made. Get it? All the other pieces are removed from the board and captured. But the king, you win when the king cannot move. And that's the point I'm making right now. When our political opponents can make no moves, we control the board. We don't need to take or capture the king. We just need to make them completely powerless. And then we'll bring about our changes. But I want to leave you with this. As mad as I am to see this, I'm as disgusted as I am with these Democrats and what they're doing. I want to leave you with this. One of the most important things to understand. Roe v. Wade was overturned. I don't know that I agree with it. I believe it is a federal question as to whether or not an unborn person is a person. I believe that should be determined. But with this, there is something darker. Blue states, they're going to get abortions en masse. Colorado allows abortion up to the point of birth. It's a self-correcting issue, and it's horrifying. Red states will have more births, and thus more conservatives will be born and raised. Liberals will abort their kids in larger numbers, and thus there will be population decline in blue states. Sure, they can try and use migration, as many people argue. That doesn't matter. Because even the people who come here will be indoctrinated to these values, and they will get abortions. And the end result will be red states will grow in population, and this country will turn Republican. I'm disgusted by what we're learning from the government every single day. But you shouldn't get down on it. You shouldn't be upset. You should laugh. This is behind us. We're exposing, and we knew they were doing this. And now we're winning. With Bud Light, with Target, with Macy's, all of these big brands failing, we are winning. With Donald Trump's polling, with the rise of new media, we're winning every single day. So don't get down. Don't get depressed. 'Tis no black pill. This is us being like, yo, they're scared. These hearings, this information getting out, it's the beginning of the end for these corrupt Democrats, and that's why they're so pissed off. Oh, and don't get me wrong, they will thrash about violently, like anyone drowning. And that's what we're seeing with the deep state and the Democrats. They're losing power. Their crackpottery is failing. Kissinger is dead. This world that they tried to build is failing, and they can't maintain it. And we will be better off for it when we secure our borders, when we bring back manufacturing, and we have been. We don't got enough to build the wall. That's what they said. But we can send $100+ billion to Ukraine. Ukraine's on the verge of surrender. What a waste of time and energy. And all of us were right. So I give you this, my friends. Be not angry. Be invigorated and inspired. Now is the time to take the remainder of the field as they flee from it. We're winning. Let that be said. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.